The war between Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie has entered a new and unsettling chapter that blurs the line between love once shared and the bitterness that now defines them. What began as a Hollywood dream has transformed into a courtroom saga steeped in accusation, loss, and exhaustion. This week, new legal filings from Jolie have reignited public scrutiny, accusing Pitt of seizing control of their once-beloved French estate, Chateau Miraval, a place she now calls a painful memory dressed as a home. It has been nearly a decade since that fateful 2016 flight, the night that shattered their marriage and rewrote the story of Hollywood's most adored couple. Yet somehow the turbulence of that evening still echoes today, reverberating through every claim, counterclaim, and reluctant headline. The divorce that once seemed procedural has become a permanent battlefield, not just for property but for truth, power, and redemption. In the beginning, Chateau Miraval was a symbol of everything that worked between them. Nestled in the rolling hills of Provence, it was not simply a vineyard, it was a promise. A home for their 6 children, a retreat for 2 global stars who wanted to live beyond the flash of cameras. There they married in 2014, surrounded by family and sunlight, whispering vows that were meant to outlast the world's cynicism. Behind that postcard perfection, however, cracks were forming. Both stars were at the height of their fame, Pitt producing Oscar-winning films through his company Plan B, and Jolie expanding her humanitarian reach as a UN envoy. Their schedules grew apart. Their visions of family life diverged. When Jolie later described Miraval as the heart of our family, it sounded less like nostalgia and more like mourning. According to new court documents, Jolie says she walked away from the estate entirely after the separation, leaving it, and all its financial worth, to Pitt in hopes of peace. When I filed for divorce, she wrote, I left him control of the family homes in Los Angeles and Miraval without compensation, hoping he would find stability in that gesture. But that gesture, she now claims, has been turned against her. At the center of their legal crossfire is not merely a vineyard, but what it represents. To Brad, Miraval is legacy, a generational brand he helped expand, turning a centuries-old property into a global symbol of elegance. To Angelina, it is trauma, the site of too many memories that no longer belong to her heart. In 2021, unwilling to sign the non-disclosure agreement Pitt's lawyers reportedly demanded, Jolie sold her 50% stake in Miraval to Tenuta del Mondo, a subsidiary of the Stoli Group owned by billionaire Yuri Scheffler. Pitt, claiming they had agreed neither would sell without the other's consent, sued her for breach of contract. She countersued, accusing him of attempting to seize control of the property to punish her. Now, the case has evolved into something darker than a business dispute. Legal filings from Jolie's team portray Pitt as manipulative, driven by resentment. His camp paints her as vindictive, strategically using accusation as distraction. Each document feels less like evidence and more like a diary of a broken marriage, one in which neither can stop reopening old wounds. A source close to Pitt's circle told Star magazine, they believe Angelina is trying to create a distracting narrative with these new claims. Brad's team insists she violated his rights, and that's why he's following this through in court. For outsiders, it is easy to view this as ego warfare, but to those who once saw the couple up close, it feels more tragic. 2 people who once believed they were invincible, now trapped in an emotional cycle that neither can escape. To understand why every headline about them still hurts, one must go back to September 2016, the private jet flight from France to Los Angeles that changed everything. When Jolie filed for divorce, she cited irreconcilable differences, but soon, details surfaced about an alleged altercation between Pitt and one of their children. Jolie claimed Pitt, intoxicated at the time, became verbally and physically abusive toward her and the kids. Pitt denied the allegations, and after an FBI investigation, no charges were filed. Yet, as insiders later said, the damage was irreversible. Jolie's decision to leave was not about one incident, but what it symbolized. The end of trust, the collapse of peace, the realization that even Hollywood's golden couple could break. The custody battle that followed was bruising. Jolie initially had full custody. Pitt was granted limited visitation. In 2021, a judge ruled for joint custody, which Jolie's team appealed. Each legal motion peeled back another layer of grief, turning private pain into public evidence. What had once been love became litigation. Nearly 9 years later, both appear to be starting new chapters, yet their paths continue to cross. Pitt's production company, Plan B, announced an expansion into the UK with a new office in London. Meanwhile, sources confirm Jolie has been scouting properties in the same city. "London's big enough for both," one insider said, "but emotionally, it's the smallest place on Earth." For Jolie, the thought of proximity may be unbearable. "There's still a lot of pain there," said a source. She can't seem to forget what he did or forgive him. Their 6 children, Maddox, Pax, Zahara, Shiloh, and twins Knox and Vivian, remain the most visible symbol of what was once a modern family. Earlier this year, Shiloh reportedly filed to drop Pitt from her surname after turning 18. Zahara, now in college, no longer uses her father's name in social settings, and Vivian, who works with her mother on the Broadway adaptation of The Outsiders, is said to have done the same. These quiet gestures spoke loudly. In Hollywood, where names are legacies, their decisions marked independence. Jolie has reportedly supported them unconditionally. "She gives them room to decide who they are," said one friend. Her message is simple: be kind, stay grounded, protect each other. For Pitt, the emotional distance from his children has been his deepest wound. Friends say he no longer blames anyone but himself. He has maintained sobriety, continued therapy, and focused on rebuilding what he can, even if that means moving at the pace of forgiveness. Professionally, Jolie is reclaiming her space. Her upcoming film, Anxious People, marks her first major on-screen return in years. Off-camera, she is developing Atelier Jolie, a creative fashion collective in New York promoting sustainability and craftsmanship. For her, these are not vanity projects. They are about authorship. After years of being portrayed through court filings and paparazzi photos, she is finally telling her own story again. Those close to her admit the legal war has drained her. "She's strong, but she's tired," a friend said. "Every new court motion is another wound reopened. She wants peace, but she refuses to be silenced." Brad Pitt, on the other hand, has found a quieter rhythm. In interviews since 2019, he has spoken openly about accountability and healing. His Oscar-winning role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood felt almost autobiographical, a man confronting nostalgia and guilt. Since 2022, he has been in a relationship with jewelry designer Inez de Ramon. Friends say she brings him stability and stillness. "He's finally learning to breathe again," one source said. Yet the past continues to follow him. Every new filing drags his name back into the storm. Public opinion remains divided. To some, he is a man unfairly haunted. To others, an example of how power shields accountability. Jolie's supporters see courage in her persistence. Pitt's defenders see cruelty in her timing. The truth, as always, is less cinematic. 2 people navigating the ruins of what they once built together. Their silence now says more than their statements. They communicate only through lawyers and legal briefs. Once, their shared causes spoke louder than fame. Now paperwork does. It has been almost 10 years since they last appeared together publicly, yet their names remain inseparable, bound by a history neither can rewrite. In her latest filing, Jolie wrote that she has never again set foot on Miraval since their split, describing it as too closely tied to the painful events that ended our marriage. The line is haunting in its restraint. It is not anger, but fatigue. It sounds like someone who no longer wants to win, only to heal. Both Pitt and Jolie have become symbols of transformation. For him, redemption. For her, survival. Together, they form a mirror. 2 reflections of how love can evolve into something unrecognizable. Their story is no longer about guilt or innocence, but about endurance. It's about what remains when love turns to litigation, when children grow up watching the people who raised them become strangers in headlines. In Hollywood, stories usually end with closure. But theirs refuses to. They continue forward, parallel but never converging, lines that once touched but now stretch infinitely apart. As Jolie once said in an interview, "Love doesn't disappear when it ends. It changes form, and sometimes that form is pain." Perhaps that is what endures between them. Beneath the lawsuits and property disputes, beneath the public narratives, remain 2 people still trying to understand what became of the dream they built.